This is the boys, and their goal is to kill everyone, starting off with this guy. This is Throgg the Terror, one of our many Viking neighbors. And we even have a mission to kill him, so of course that is what we are going to do. Starting our first battle. The enemy army here, even though it's start of the game, they actually have some pretty decent units, starting with these Marauder champions. They also have what in the world these things are. I have no clue. They're probably gonna beat the hell out of our people, but that's fine. But don't worry, we have a whole mammoth, and of course we also have some boys next to him to help him out if anything happens. We start the battle by pushing our ranged cavalry up to the enemy and do some little bit skirmishing before the lines eventually meet. And of course, when they're close enough, we bombard them with some magic. The otherworldly creatures that we talked about earlier are also throwing our boys out of the woods, so they're kind of scary. Seeing as it is quite a stalemate, I decide to bombard our enemies. But not only once, twice. Because you can never be too sure if your enemies receive the concussion or not, and it's better to be safe than sorry. We also had a 2v1 hero action where Wulfric and our shaman did some teamfight tactics, but Wulfric did more friendly fire than anything. And as I decided to give the third concussion, and the enemies feeling the impending doom, they of course surrendered. Oh, we won! After that decisive victory and taking down the enemy leader, we form a confederation where we take all the enemy lands, their lands being Trollfjord. We then start to reinforce our armies because we have an enemy to the east. We also resort some war tools to buff our boys, and these are our enemies, the Naglfarlings. They own 3 settlements to our east. They don't have the biggest army, but they can easily get that with the economics that they have. So the quicker we kill these guys, the better. So that's exactly what I decided to do, and then we rush them down. Hello? Our second battle, and we're hoping for a second victory. I plan to use our horses in the woods here to sneak behind the enemies, because the enemies have a lot more units than we do. They're utilizing the garrison of a settlement that they were in when we attacked, and therefore we gotta use some supreme tactics. While our boys rush forward, our cavalry successfully flanks the enemy, but sadly the enemy has way too many ranged units, so our cavalry are useless. And of course, when the lines meet, we give the enemies the good old impaling concussion bomb. Oh, what's that? That is Wulfric's seafaring ability, where he actually kidnaps some sailors on the sea and teleports them into battle. And with superior tactics, it's of course a victory. The enemy also suffered a lot more losses than we did, even though they had more people than us, and that means it's a strategic victory as well, so we'll take that. And because the boys put Lamont Dahl back into the dirt, we form a confederation and take all of his 3 settlements, taking Grayling Moot, Doomkeep, and Naglfarid Plains for ourselves. We also make a secondary army as a garrison in Trollfjord, where we also reinforce him. And now, with a few turns of peace, we expand settlements, we reinforce armies, and we just bathe in the glories that we have had so far, and exploit the riches and invest in... Oh, was that? That's war! Our northern Viking neighbors have declared war. And oh wow, they're already here. And they're attacking Doomkeep. Now, these are the defenses I put up. I didn't have a lot to work with, so I had to be kind of spread thin. The opposite side had 4 enemies, so I just put 2 ranged units there and hoped they would hold. Southeast lane is being assisted by a tower, and when the enemy marched in, I reinforced with 1 more group of marauders, as the Middle East lane didn't have any enemies. Now northeast is where the majority of the enemies were, and I really tried to hold on and do as much damage as possible, as we also had a tower built there later on. The enemy also flanked and started to capture our main objective, but I couldn't really do anything because I didn't have any spare units. And as you can see, there's a Where's Waldo problem going on here, where our lord is just stuck in the middle of enemies trying to walk. He's not really attacking, and I don't know why that happened. This was not meant to be. With the enemy having more than double our forces, we still did quite a lot of damage. I was pretty happy with that. I then move Wulfric over to Naglfarid Plains, where we have a huge battle that I'm going to auto-resolve because I don't think I would win that manually. And then we raise settlement to the Hound for allegiance points. We then sent Wulfric to raid the enemy territory for some gold gain. A few turns later, we sieged their capital, where again I auto-assault because I don't think I will win the manual battle. And it's almost a loss. So here we sack the settlement for the money, and after this victory, we of course get the choice to form a confederation, and that's what we do, having now gained control the north part of our peninsula. Oh hey look, Throgg Wintertooth has now declared war on us, a huge troll that lives in the eastern mountains. I tried to negotiate for peace, but that of course didn't work, and only one turn later, oh was that? That's one of Throgg's armies, and he's already here. And the turn after that, he's already besieging us. And so we started the defense with a classic, harassing the enemy units with our cavalry. We were able to do quite a lot of damage and even split off some of the enemy units to chase the cavalry. Took some time before the enemy figured out what was happening, and he was not happy, sending some of his trolls after our cavalry. He also possessed some ice trolls who were marching towards our line. Oh look, another successful kidnapping attempt. Now this battle was crazy, but we are crazier, resulting in a lot of enemies routing and they surrendering, giving us the victory. The enemy army survived, but it didn't last for that long as we chased after them and then executed everyone. That's an easy auto-resolve. And here we are, one turn away. Wulfric the Wanderer's army outside of Throgg's cap. Oh, he attacked us. Time to meet him in the field and put him in the dirt. The boys are here. Look at this absolutely beautiful army. And in this battle, I decided to use a defensive tactic where I make up a formation and just stand my ground. Doesn't take long before the enemy is crushed and they fully retreat. Now this was quite a decisive victory where we even put Throgg into the dirt, resulting in again the option to make a confederation. And of course that's what we choose to do. And because of this, we also take over one of Throgg's armies, which are pretty good, and inspecting some of Throgg's settlements, they are pretty good, giving us access to female warriors, female heroes, and flying manticores. We then talked to the great Orthodoxy of Kislev, where I offered Krakadrak, one of Throgg's isolated settlements, in return of Kostaltin becoming our vassal and also giving us several thousands of payment. So he owns actually a decent amount of land, which means that we can now pincer into Azazel and Hama, which is exactly what I decided to do next. It is our time to liberate Hama Thainfrost, our Viking neighbor, from the vassalage that this demon has bestowed upon him. So we camp outside of Hama's capital, Bay of Blades, and ambush him, and he, like a little dummy, runs straight into it. Time for another victory for the boys. In an ambush, the enemy marches stretching the line, and you're able to attack them from both sides. With our superior army, superior tactics, and the boys having quite high levels of experience, the enemy routs and it's a clear victory for us again. The enemy army suffered major losses compared to us, thanks to the ambush, And after enslaving all the captives from the battle, Throgg, moving up on our second front, attacks Starling encampment, absolutely demolishing the enemy garrison, and then raising a settlement for the Hound for allegiance points. Then back to Wulfric, we move down on Bay of Blades, where there's a very puny small garrison that we auto-resolve, and after we also raise that to the Hound. I love Throgg, look at this guy, he's fucking huge. It's like... Absolute amazing impression, I gotta say, I gotta be honest. Anyways, we start to move towards Azazel's capital, and because of this, he actually offers a peace treaty. Then we of course laugh in his face and say no, because why the hell would we do that? The next turn we besiege his settlement, setting up the siege to come, but sadly the next turn, Azazel actually comes out of the castle to attack us, stopping the siege, attacking us with his full army and the settlement garrison, giving us the biggest and fiercest battle yet. Mr. Ass and Wulfric started an early 1v1, and Azazel just started pulling his wagon. Dude, I don't know. Anyways, our boys actually held really well against this horde, as they were outnumbered almost 2-1. Here we can see the second launch of the wolves today. This is actually the second group that they are fighting in this battle alone, so yeah, they're doing pretty well. And here's back to Wulfric and Azazel's 1v1. Wulfric got hit one too many times instead of being pulled, and he didn't want any of that. And as you can see, it was looking very, very close. Throughout the whole match, it constantly looked like I was going to lose. And guess what? Another successful kidnapping attempt. And in the end, we were able to pull through and actually win, thanks to us isolating the enemy heroes and them not being able to give their leadership to their own troops. Nice, we actually won. The enemy suffered close to double the losses, even though they had a lot of high-tier troops and a lot of heroes in the battle. The army was also wiped out, and the same with Azazel. He was wounded and taken out of battle for the next 3 turns. We then sent Throgg down to one of Hama's settlements to do some raiding, and we also sent Wulfric to finally finish off the Tower of Krowns, Azazel's main capital, which resulted in us getting over 20k gold for sacking a settlement. I have never seen this before. We then go on a small campaign moving south, killing small armies, taking smaller settlements close to our ally, also raising the settlements, giving us tier 1 allegiance to the Hound. We did the same to the Tower of Krowns, and shortly after raising the tower, we also settled it. And look who's back, it's Hama and he's challenging Throgg. Time to do some smashing. We also got some ice trolls on our side this time, and this huge giant. This guy is so big that he's using shields as decoration and protection around his belt and on his arm. This is crazy. And here we can see Throgg running into action, chasing the enemy leader, but he ended up doing more friendly fire than anything. This time the enemy was the one with the mammoths, but we had the trolls and the giants, and our giants were mostly playing golf with the enemy berserkers. As you can see here, we were spread thin and not really in formation at all, but it was fine as our units were quite high tier and very experienced. And of course we had giants, like hello. There was also a battle here on the left flank that we were starting to lose, so I sent in our only option for help, Tiger Woods himself. Now, Mr. Woods here, he was so effective that all the enemies in this skirmish actually routed, which made us win. We are now won on the right and the left flank, thanks to Throgg doing a lot of work on the left flank, and taking down Hama Thainfrost after we've taken down Azazel gives us the option to form a confederation with Hama's lands. So of course that's what we choose to do. We have now conquered and united all the Vikings of this peninsula and putting Azazel in exile, and we also have some of Kislev under our own control as our vassal. Oh, was that? I have my own troll to deal with, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Press a like and subscribe, and I'll see you another time.